And John, it's pretty clear though what what you want to do here on this offensive line. It's going to be a massive interior game for this team. You want to attack those three in the middle. That's what Brian Flores did a couple weeks ago. Had great success with it. I want to start with the key injury reports. And I'm actually going to start on the Lions side, John, because the Eagles looks pretty good once again. It's another thing you've been talking about here on the show. We keep winning the injury report battle. 3 key names, John, did not practice for this Lions team for the second straight day. Terrion Arnold, the cornerback, is out with a concussion. He missed Wednesday and Thursday's practice. Obviously, do not have Friday's update yet. Kirby Joseph, who we kind of expected because he missed last week, he was out Thursday and Friday. And then a big one, Sam Laporta, their starting tight end, a big part of their passing game, out Wednesday and Thursday, 2 straight days with a back injury. John, those are big names for the Lions, man. If they're missing Arnold, Kirby Joseph, and Sam Laporta, obviously 2 secondary guys there, and then a big part of their passing game is Sam Laporta.
Yeah, I think Sam's the biggest one because I think the thought was coming into the week that he was going to play, and now there's a lot of uncertainty around that. And so today's a big day to keep an eye on. So that sort of throws a wrench, and that's a big deal. That is a big, big deal. I mean, they're used to playing without Terrence. They've been playing without Kirby Joseph for a while. He's not only been out last week, he's been out significant weeks already. Now he's a very good player, and that hurts. Terrion Arnold has not lived up to his draft pedigree, to say the least. So I don't know if that's as big as a deal as the other ones, but you'd like to have all 3 because he's still one of their best corners, but he really hasn't lived up to it. But the Laporta one, that's a concern for them. And if he doesn't play, yeah, that takes a big, big weapon away from Jared Goff. Especially
I don't think their depth tight ends are not even close to Laporta, but I don't even think they're pass catchers. Like Calcaterra can catch passes, if we need him to. He's not the player Goddard is, but I don't think they even have that in their backup tight end. I think Brock Wright is one of their backup tight ends, and there's a couple other names that they have.
Yeah, you can't replace a player like that, and he's sort of like a security blanket on those big downs. And obviously, they're the most. They're the best 4th down team in football. And yeah, Brock Wright is more of a blocker. They have another Ross Dwelly, but it's like a cliff. You're going off a cliff without Sam Laporta. So that is the one I'd be hyper focused on today. If he doesn't play, that's a big deal, and that'll make things easier for the Eagles.
No doubt. So that's the Lions injury report. They have a bunch of other guys listed as limited, but anybody who knows, the Lions kind of play with the injury report. It feels like every week they always got all these players on. I feel like it's one of their gamesmanship strategies, but there is a bunch more players there, all listed as limited or full. So the only guys who were no practice were Arnold, Joseph, Laporta, and then defensive lineman Pat O'Connor. Let's go to the Eagles injury report, John. Much better today than it was the day prior. Not that it was that bad the day prior, but the only limited player in practice yesterday or on the injury report yesterday was Cam Jurgens with that knee injury. What do you think, J-Mac? You think Cam Jurgens goes this week?
I think so, because of the game and the Eagles understand that they want to. This is a big game because this gives them the inside track for the number 1 seed. They already have the tiebreaker with the Rams and the Bucks, and to get this one and the Packers to get this one as well. This really puts them into driver's seats, especially with their schedule and the NFC East looking as poor as it does right now, as opposed to what teams like the Lions have to go through and teams like the Rams and the Seahawks have to go through in deeper, tougher divisions. So this would really put them in the driver's seat if they're able to get this win. So I think, certainly Lane's going to play. Landon's going to play. Tyler's going to play. Talked to him a little bit yesterday. He said his is nothing, basically. Just that time of year, he quoted it as. And Cam's the only one who's up in the air, and I think that truly is how he handles the week. He's wearing a big brace on his knee. If he comes out of the week of practice well and feeling good, I think he'll start. If not, I think you'll see Brett Toth. But I wanted to rewind to Laporta for a second because the Lions also worked out a bunch of tight ends for their practice squad and signed Anthony Berkser, who's a veteran. So that's a bad sign as
Right.
well.
That could be an indication that, yeah, it doesn't look
Yeah.
good for Sam.
Yeah. As you know, I said the Eagles are 7-2, very good record. They're 10-0 in injury reports. I mean, they're just healthier than everybody they play. So I don't know, they deserve some credit for that.
You got to, John. I think there's some element of luck, but at some point, it's so much luck put together, you start to wonder if it's not luck. They're doing something.
Well, that's
right.
what I mean.
Yeah.
It's every week. It's consistently every single week.
Multiple years now, it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. That's the injury report. Those are the updates. We will keep you. I'll keep you guys posted on the channel. I know this is our last Birds 365 of the week, but if anything big changes on the injury report, I'll jump on live and keep you guys posted. I think the really the bigger names to watch are obviously on that Detroit side, as we just talked about. All right, John, we got a bunch of super chats we're going to get to early here today. I want to thank everybody for being here. So hit that like button and drop your super chats. They'll all go to the top. We will get to them. John, Eagles, Lions. An anticipated game for maybe 18 plus months at this point. Two of the best teams in football, two of the best teams in the NFC, finally coming to a head, finally meeting in the arena. It's a Sunday night football game at Lincoln Financial Field. I expect that place to be rowdy, my friend. What are your just your early thoughts on the game as I lay it out like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Eagles have won, I think, 13 or 14 at Lincoln Financial Field. I mean, that's the whole thing. Nobody wants to come here in January. That's for damn sure. When they had home field advantage, they went to the Super Bowl both times. So, yeah, it's a big deal in big games to play here for the Eagles, and certainly an advantage. I mean, as I said, 13 of 14. They've won 10 straight against the NFC North, which is a good division.
Yeah,
Think
great
about
division.
that.
They might put 3 teams in the playoffs again.
It's possible. And they might be 12-0 in a couple of weeks against the NFC North if they finish off Detroit and Chicago.
Yep.
So, yeah. And both of those games are here, by the way, Detroit as well as Chicago. So, yeah, it's a tough place to play. And people don't like playing here, with the exception of maybe Jared Verse. I always respect Jared Verse because he encourages it.
He's a great player, man, Jared Verse.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, most people sort of wither. I think the Jared Verses are few and far between. And I think, the history of Jared Goff is if he doesn't play well, it's because he's getting pressure. And I mean, this is most quarterbacks. This is not any, Sermon on the Mount or anything, but most quarterbacks struggle with pressure. But the difference between him and others, and maybe it's more the higher end, because if he's comfortable, he's so good, so accurate. But if he gets pressure, especially right up the middle, he can start to wither. And I think that's going to be the Eagles' game plan.
Yeah, no doubt about it. John, the weather is supposed to be, I think the high is 56 on Sunday. It'll probably be, my guess would be in the 40s because it's a night game. So it's not like you're in the peak in the middle of the day there. So it shouldn't be too cold weather or anything like that for those wondering. Not that has that big of an impact, but it does have some impact, especially on a player like Goff or a dome team like the Lions are. Coming in, John, where do you think the biggest advantage or disadvantage for the Eagles are? There's a lot of great matchups. One thing really sticks out when I think about this Lions team. It's that two-headed monster at running back. I mean, just looking at their stats this year, Jahmyr Gibbs, 128 rushing yards, or 128 rush attempts, for 693 yards. He's averaging 5.4 yards per carry with 8 touchdowns. And then you got the hammer. You got David Montgomery, 104 carries for 466 yards, good for 4.5 a carry and 5 touchdowns. That's 1159 yards at 5 a carry for 13 touchdowns and 232 attempts for the tandem of running backs in Detroit, John. That's a good unit.
Yeah, to say the least. Sonic and Thunder. Yeah, I think that's the best.
Sonic and Knuckles or something.
Sonic and Knuckles. Yeah. I'm conflating Thunder and Lightning with Sonic and Knuckles. I apologize. I've never seen the show, by the way. It's a show, movie, whatever.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Video game, whatever. I don't know what it is, but I enjoy the nickname. Yeah, I mean, I said yesterday, I've said it many times. I think the toughest matchup offensive playmaker in the NFL, bar none, is Jahmyr Gibbs, number one. That guy gets in open space and you are cooked. Tremendous player. And then just the perfect. I talked about it a lot with Saquon Barkley in training camp. You want a changeup. You want a curveball. You don't want two similar running backs, and they have the big bruising, move the pile, David Montgomery, who's one of the most physical runners you're going to see, as a tremendous compliment. So you get that 1-2 punch right off the bat, and then it's that, the old good problem to have. We talk about it a lot in Philadelphia. Same thing in Detroit with those two, because when Gibbs isn't on the field, you almost feel like, wow, we should get him on the field. But I think, long term, the changeup is worth it, and Montgomery is so good in his own right. Yeah, it's you can't get much better than that at the running back position. Those two guys.
And John, I don't want to boil it down to this, but if you think about it, here's the stat on it. The Lions have 3 losses this year. In all 3 of those games, it was the only 3 games of the year their 2 running backs were held to under 100 yards combined. They lost to the Packers in week 1. The Lions ran for 46 yards in that game. They lost to the Chiefs. They ran for 98 yards in that game. They lost to the Vikings. They ran for 65 yards in that game. Those are the only 3 games of the year they had under 100 rushing yards for the team. So, I mean, again, you're not going to boil it down to that, but you take away that running game, or you limit that running game to the best you can, you're going to give yourself a much better opportunity to win the football game.
Well, and that's also a testament to playing from the lead and getting a good start, because you want to turn them into a pure drop back team. So I think this is one of those games where, Jody and I used to talk way too much about coin tosses because of Jody, not because of me.
Yeah, Jody loved the coin toss.
And, they defer all the time. This is a game I wouldn't defer. Like,
wow.
I want to start quick. I want to start quick, and I want to get the lead just from what you pointed out. I want to play from the lead in this game and force them to drop back and let Jalen Carter and Moro Ojomo go after that interior offensive line. That's how the Eagles win this game. And I think the easiest way to get on track is to take the football first, go down the score. You shorten the game if it's a long drive. Like, think about that first drive they had against the Packers. Now, they deferred, but their first offensive drive before the fumble, it's like 8 minutes, 16 plays. That's what you want to do against this team. They had 556 yards or whatever last week, 44 points. Keep them off the field, number one. Play from the lead, number 2. And make them one-dimensional, number 3. And to your point, on the other end of that spectrum, when Gibbs and Montgomery score a touchdown in the same game, the Lions are 14-0, and they do it a lot.
Yeah, they do.
So, you want to take those 2 running backs out of the game as much as possible.
And those are tough guys to take out of the game, man. It's a lot easier said than done here on the show. There's no doubt about that. But it is going to be a good matchup. John, then you kind of go a little further, just looking at that Lions offense. Then they got Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously somebody we talked about on the show this week. He's been a great receiver since he's come into the league. He's a volume receiver, John. He was second in the NFL in receptions last year. I think he's fourth in the NFL right now already. Has 64 catches on the year for 693 yards and 8 touchdowns. And then you obviously add that in with Jameson Williams and Sam Laporta. We don't know if Sam's going to play, as we prefaced the show, or we started the show with today. But those are good pass catchers, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And for all the people, there's so much talk about Cooper DeJean moving outside. This is not the week you want to move him outside.
Amon-Ra goes at the slot a lot.
Yeah. This is not the week you want him to move outside, even if you want him to move outside. So, yeah, he's a machine on third down, and he's going to become more important to and fourth down. He's going to, because you always have to talk about fourth down with the Detroit Lions, but he's going to be more important if Sam Laporta is not there. So this is not the week. Can we pause that for 1 week? You need Cooper DeJean on St. Brown as much as humanly possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a subject to pause.
And by the way, that's a tough matchup for Cooper DeJean. That's no guarantee.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup for everybody. Yeah. But you're better equipped to deal with it than most. And it becomes you're even more equipped if you take Laporta out of the equation, because it's like, well, if St. Brown's having some difficulty with Cooper, you just go to Laporta. Can't go to Laporta. So that's me. I mean, we got to pick the game here, but I'm telling you who I'm picking. If Laporta plays, I'm picking the Lions. If he doesn't, I'm picking the Eagles. And I think he's not playing, so I'm picking the Eagles. That's how important I think he is to that team.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you on Laporta. He is such a safety blanket, for Jared Goff, and he can really, he plays a big role in their passing game. John, do you think Amon-Ra St. Brown's the best slot receiver in football?
Yeah, he's up there. I mean,
and do you think Cooper DeJean's the best slot corner in football?
That I say more definitively.
There you go. There you go, baby.
There's a lot of good slot receivers, so you have to, but St. Brown's up there, certainly. But I think it's clear that Cooper's the best slot corner. Well, good receivers tend to have the advantage over great receivers tend to have the advantage over great corners because the NFL wants it that way. So
yeah, great offense, beats great defense, no doubt about it. There are good high-powered offense, though, and then you add in Jameson Williams. I know we've mentioned him being a little overrated, but take that out of it for a second. He can gash you, and he can get the beginning.
He can get behind you.
Yeah, so he can take the top off, no doubt.
He's a player. They're a huge play action team. I mean, they're a huge play action team, and he's the guy they're going to take deep shots with. And he can get behind anybody. But he's a little bit more inconsistent when it comes to being a well-rounded receiver. I thought coming out, I thought he was going to be really good. I don't think he's lived up to that standard. But as a deep threat, he's a big-time deep threat. I mean, he's averaging 17 yards per catch, almost 18 in this era of football, which is dump it off, get the ball out quick, stop the pass rush, bubble screen. So when somebody gets to that level in this era of football, they can get behind the defense.
Yeah, 17.6 yards per catch for Jameson Williams. He's got 27 catches, 474 yards, and 4 touchdowns. And then Laporta has a little bit more than that. He's got 40 receptions, 489, 12.2 a catch, and 3 touchdowns. So their pass catchers are combining for 15 touchdowns there and well over 1,500 yards. So a great unit there on off.
Number one after the catch, too, and that yards after the catch. So that has to do with the accuracy of Jared Goff.
Right.
Because he puts the ball where you can run with it afterward. And that is kind of a lost trait with many quarterbacks in the NFL.
Well, John, yesterday you made a comment, and I don't want to push back on you, but I think it deserves some context, especially for a game like this. You made a comment that scheming receivers open is overrated. Well, just on the surface, it feels like the Lions do that better with Amon-Ra St. Brown than any team in the league. Now, there's context to that. What do you think of that element of it? Because I think that's one of the big reasons he gets so many yards after the catches. They scheme him open. Goff gets him the football on time and on target, and boom, away he goes.
Well, I think when you talk about what fans would consider scheme, I think, the 49ers and the Lions are probably the two best. And more of the Lions with Ben Johnson, who's now in Chicago. But so those are the two best at doing it. But I mean, again, they're really freaking good players. If they were doing this with, well, you're going to see it with a lesser tight end probably. So you're going to have Brock Wright instead of Sam Laporta. Well, if you had Khalif Raymond instead of Jameson Williams, I mean, I don't know why this is so controversial to people. Like, the best wide receivers, put on Jamar Chase film. Look at how much he's double teamed compared to other receivers. Jefferson film. Look at how much he's been double teamed over the years compared to other receivers. They still managed to get it done. A little bit less this year with poor JJ for obvious reasons because of the other JJ. They still managed to get it done. I got to cover Chris Carter in the prime of his career, en route to being a Hall of Famer. He had a different quarterback every year. He just produced. Didn't matter who it was. Now, sometimes when he had Warren Moon, it was even better.
Right.
And it would go, but dude just produced. Players, man. Players.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying with it. I do think there is probably some degree of where it helps, but I agree. Players come first with that. John, good stuff. Looking at the offensive line of the Lions here. All right, games are won in the trenches, everybody. It hasn't changed. As much as football changes, many of it still stays the same. Graham Glasgow became their center, John, after Frank Ragnow retired. That's been obviously a major downgrade when you lose a center like Frank Ragnow. Their normal starting left guard, Christian Mahogany, he's out. He was placed on IR last week with a knee injury. And
Coyote Awasika.
Coyote Awasika. Anybody remember that name? He was with the Eagles for a little bit on the practice squad, I believe. Correct? Or was he on the starting roster?
Yeah, practice squad. Good dude. They for years they had Halapuli Vati as well, but Coyote. I like saying both of those names, Halapuli Vati and Coyote Awasika. That hurts. I was surprised, to be honest. They rolled out that they had the best offensive line in football. I think they did have the best offensive line in football, or were close to it.
And the other guard they have is Tate Ratledge, and he's a
rookie. Now he's playing pretty well for rookie. He's playing pretty well, but they're not. When Frank was there, when Frank Ragnow, he was right there with Kelsey as the best center in football. Certainly you got to put Creed Humphrey in there, but in the conversation. They're not quite as good as they typically are, except for Panay Sewell, who's Godzilla on. Yeah. He's like the Myles Garrett of offensive linemen.
It's a great comp.
You see D-backs and linebackers run away from him on the film all the time because they don't want any part of it.
Yeah, he just destroys people downfield.
And I think I heard somebody say, well, he's better at run block. Well, he is, because he's almost scary at run block.
Offensive linemen are if they're physical, and strong.
But acting like he's not that good of a pass blocker, and he is. He's just one of the best players in the NFL, period, regardless of position. Easily top 10 in the NFL. So they still have him. Decker's a veteran. But I would say, above average left tackle. He's not bad, but he's not great. And then you lose the other all-pro with Frank Ragnow. They're not nearly as good as they typically are. on the offensive line. So I was a little surprised that Vic said that. He
Yeah,
called
well,
him the best offensive line in football.
and John, it's pretty clear though what what you want to do here on this offensive line. It's going to be a massive interior game for this team. You want to attack those three in the middle. That's what Brian Flores did a couple weeks ago. Had great success with it. So
Force Jahmyr Gibbs to block on third down.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to blitz, but I think that it's a big Jalen Carter, Moro Ajomo, Jordan Davis game. They got to create pressure in the middle, and that could completely change how the Lions play.
Yeah, I don't want to tell Vic how to do his job, but I would blitz just to force him in. In other words, like it doesn't matter how dominant Jalen Carter is or Moro Ajomo is. If you're only sending a 4-man rush, they're not going to feel compelled to leave them in on to block on third or fourth down. They're going to get them out, and then you have them in space. And I don't care how good your linebackers are, and the Eagles have great linebackers. They ain't sticking with that guy in coverage. Not possible.
Yeah, going to be a good one, John. I'm excited for this game coming in here. John, moving over to the Eagles' offensive side of the ball, this is still a good Lions defense, man. If they're missing Kirby Joseph and Terrion Arnold, I know you mentioned Arnold hasn't quite lived up to the draft type, but I am going to assume he's better than the guy behind him. So if those two guys are missing, that would be two secondary guys. What do you think about the Eagles' offense matching up against that Lions D?
Yeah, I mean, the two guys you have to worry about are Hutchinson and Jack Campbell, who was turned into a terrific linebacker. And I know Brad Holmes gets a lot of shit for that draft. He got a lot of shit for that draft, and he likes to spike the football because people were saying, how do you take a running back as high as Gibbs? How do you take a linebacker as high as Campbell? And they both turned into phenomenal football players. So those are your two really, really star players. And right behind him, I would say, but he's been banged up this year, is Brian Branch, who is a phenomenal football player, one of my favorite players in the league. Tremendous. They got a lot of talent on defense. It's just never together. Never together. Like Kirby Joseph is one of the best safeties in football. If you have Branch and Joseph at the same time, that's arguably the best safety group in football. DJ Reed's a good corner, but he's been injured. Again, Arnold hasn't lived up to the hype, but he's talented. We all know he's talented. By the way, Avonte Maddox is there. Not that, that moves the needle, but he's played a little bit because of the injuries, not a ton. Alex Anzalone's an underrated linebacker.
Yep.
Always making plays. They always find people, and perform.
So damn injured though. Is that the way they play? Is it the way they practice?
Well, a lot of people have criticized him because he's kind of old school and he's physical.
Yeah, right.
And maybe that's part of it. And they wear down. Lynn McMullen just got back. He's not playing well, but he was out for a long time. But he's a good player if they get him up to speed. So he's back. Muhammad is their other edge rusher out opposite of Hutchinson, and he's better than people think. I think their defense is better than Eagles fans probably think it is. And the Eagles offense is struggling. Now, when the Eagles have one of their good games offensively, they can play with anybody. So it's almost you have to wait and see what shows up offensively, unfortunately. If it's going to be a shit week, they're in trouble. But in some ways, I think the personality of the game will fix that because they'll have to be more of an urgency to do different things and to take some chances. Because the Lions are probably going to score some points, even if you play well. Like playing well against the Lions is, probably holding them to 24 points.
Yeah,
and you'd say that's a good day. especially when they're clicking and they're clicking. And if you hold them to 24 points, say, well, then you got to score 25. And the personality of the game demands that. So I think part of it will be just fixed by that.
Yep, no doubt about it. John, this is the team, as we've talked about. We've had a lot of discussion about the offense this year, as it seems we always do. But obviously, we started the show today talking about the Jeffrey Lurie meeting, all right, with A.J. Brown apparently on the sideline. This is the team, though, John, that could force the Eagles to play a different brand of football. You need to put points on the board to keep up with this team. They could force them to open it up and play less risk averse. That's like the word of this era of Eagles football is becoming risk averse. But this is the team that could force you to open up. I am not expecting another 10-7 football game here, John.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'll tell you what, if they hold this team to 7 points, this is the best defense in football, period.
Packers held them to 13, but that was week 1.
Yeah, different, rival too.
How much do you put on Dan Campbell play calling?
Similar. I think it was unfair, but it worked for one.
Yeah, but I mean more from like the Eagles' perspective. Like, does that throw a wrench in how you game plan because you don't have as many tendencies to go off of and less of a sample size of him calling plays for them?
Well, he called plays before, so I think you go back to that. Called plays when they were unsuccessful, but they were unsuccessful because they didn't have all the talent that they assembled.
Yeah, right.
When he was first there. But you try to get a feel for him as a play caller, so you go back to that and see what he does differently than John Morton. And I saw Morton was talking about it. He's get demoted, so he's got to put a happy face on it. But he said he admitted he was having some trouble sequencing, is what they call it, which is some of the same criticisms here with Kevin Patullo, and that's just comes with experience. And Dan's done it. To me, the first question is it going to screw you from a game management perspective? And they blew out Washington, so it didn't really. Nothing's going to matter in that type of environment. So it might hurt them from a game management perspective. From what I heard, he used, Jameson Williams, better to his strengths better. And he used everybody to their strengths better. He was very upset coming off the Minnesota game on how Flores took Jahmyr Gibbs out of the game. That's basically what it was about. Like Dan Campbell's mentality is like, you can't let somebody take that guy out of the game.
Yeah, right. Because then we're going to be cooked. We're not going to be able to do what we want to do.
Yeah. So that's basically what it was about. And he had a big game.
He had 142 rushing yards, and he also had 30 receiving yards and a touchdown through the air, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Jahmyr Gibbs went off.
So, but that's what it was about. And I don't think either of them are as good as Ben Johnson as play callers, but whatever. Sometimes, like I said, be careful what you wish for with the Ben Johnsons of the world, because they always go back to the NFC Championship game, and it's like at the biggest moment of the shit. A lot of people say, well, they played poorly. They had a ton of injuries, but they had a chance to win that game. Now, it wasn't going well for them, and they were driving with their season on the line. And they took the football out of Jared Goff's hand and they put it in Jameson Williams' hand to throw the football, and he threw an interception. Now, if that would have worked, people would have been slurping, Ben Johnson. Oh, what a creative play! And then, they forget about it, And it's like he's in Chicago. Who cares? But be careful what you wish for. If your season's on the line, you probably want the ball in Jared Goff's hand, not Jameson Williams' hand.
Yeah,
so you got to be very careful with that shit.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. John, this is a team that they'll put up a lot of points if you don't get some pressure on them, man. So I think that interior, that D line is going to be massive. Obviously, you pointed out Penei Sewell and those guys. So it's going to be a massive. John, how about the other side? Their defensive line. Aiden Hutchinson leads the NFL in pressures right now with 57. He's got 8 sacks. He's third on PFF in terms of defensive grade, behind only Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons. Just got the big contract extension. Aiden Hutchinson is a beast. Now, we do have a great, we have the antidote. We got a great remedy for that in Lane Johnson and our 2 tackles. But, that's a tough guy to go up against, too, on their defense.
Yeah, he's great. He's a tremendous player. Relentless as all. That's the one thing all pass rushers, great pass rushers. And he's a great pass rusher. Have in common is they're relentless. They never stop. They have the high motor. Seems completely healthy off a significant injury, playing a lot, dominating. I don't think they have the complement though right now to really take advantage of it. Vic, to the point of Jalen Phillips is, if you saw Vic's press conference, he was asked a bunch of questions about Jalen, and one he sort of volunteered, and I'm glad he did, because everybody, well, Jalen's son got a sack. This is Jalen Phillips play.
He collapsed the pocket on that play. So good.
It's a Jalen Phillips play, and ran him into Jalix, and Jalix made the play, and good for him, gives him confidence and all that. But they Aiden's going to run Jalen Hurts, and is somebody going to be able to clean it up?
Right.
And that's where before the injury, like Alim McNeil was turning into a really good player. Now he's been back for a couple games, but he hasn't played well. Now Muhammad is having a better year than I think people recognize. So he might be the other guy. But they've been looking for that compliment for a while. They tried Marcus Davenport again, and that dude's always injured. It's ridiculous. DJ Reader had a good year as an interior guy in Cincinnati a couple years ago. He's okay. They need somebody to step up, and they really need Alim McNeil to step up. And we'll see if he can as it goes down the stretch and he gets more comfortable. He's been back maybe for 3 games after being out for a long time. So we'll see if they can get that second guy who sort of helps him and can finish plays, because he's gonna create some issues, just like Micah did. But nobody could help Micah. Finish Jalen Hurts. Micah's always chasing. Where's everybody else?
Yep, so true. Micah had him running too, but nobody was there to clean it up, as you mentioned. John, what version of the Eagles offense are you, 1, expecting, and 2, do you think is required to keep up with this Detroit Lions team?
Well, like I said, I think the urgency of the situation the personality of the game will take care of a lot of the issues.
Right.
If you're behind, and by the way, I would advocate, if you win the coin toss, taking the football. They will not make.
Here's my only problem with that. Why are you so sure that the Eagles go down and score? We get 3 and outs a lot more often.
I know. I'm playing the game. I'm trying to set up a script where you win the game.
Right.
Yeah, there's no guarantee.
Yeah, obviously.
But they generally have played well on their first drives and then sort of fallen apart.
Yeah, that's true.
Again, they had a 16-play drive to start in Green Bay. And that's why people play, by the way, that's why they play the way they play, is because the whole theory is if you got to go 15, 16 plays, eventually you're going to make a mistake. And that's what happened. They fumbled. And they got off the field, but it was a 16-play drive.
Great drive.
8+ minutes. Now, if you finish that drive, not only are you up 7-0, not only do you shift Detroit's mentality immediately, because you're playing from the lead. You shorten the game against the best offense in football.
Yeah. And people are pointing out in the chat to me, we've had very successful I don't know what the actual stat is. Dank says we've scored 3 of 4 of the
They've been
last
very
4.
good in first
opening drives.
drives.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's never this simple, but man, does it feel this simple to me. If you pressure Goff and you get him off his spot in this game, you're going to have a great chance to win. I mean, I almost feel like we need a Jalen Carter hit on Goff early like he had on Carson Wentz. I almost don't even care if he takes a 15-yard penalty if he has to. Just don't spit on him and get thrown out.
Yeah.
But strike some
You're
fear
right.
into that guy's heart, man. Strike some fear into Jared Goff.
Well, it's interesting because at one point, this is amazing how quickly this game moves. At one point, it was pretty clear that, and everybody thought, the Eagles made the right decision in that draft by taking. Now, the Eagles, since we know, the Eagles would have taken Jared Goff, by the way. The Rams had the number 1 pick and took Goff, and the Eagles had number 2 and took Wentz. Now, the Eagles would have taken Goff if they had the number 1 pick, but it worked out for them. At least it looked like it was working out for them. And it was like,
I'd say it worked out.
Well, I agree. It worked out because they got it. I'm saying long term, but long term, Jared Goff's a much better quarterback than Carson Wentz. That's what I'm getting at.
He's not with his original team either.
No, but that's what I'm getting at. He's been able to persevere and improve and get better and do all the right things. And Carson went in the negative direction. That's what I'm getting at. That's how quickly the NFL moves. But to your point about the big hit, yes, I agree with you. That's been the history of Jared Goff. That's the history of every quarterback. If you pressure them, they do not play as well. From Patrick Mahomes on down, they do not play as well if they get pressured. You saw it in the Super Bowl last season. You saw it in the Super Bowl multiple times with Patrick Mahomes. They do not play as well if they're pressured. So that's baked into everybody. But with Goff, the high is so high, it looks, I think, more. But yeah, I mean, if you pressure quarterbacks, especially up the middle, but what I'm trying to say is that hit on Carson Wentz, he's not going to fall apart to that level as Carson Wentz did in that game, taking that hit early.
I agree.
It's got to be it's got to be consistent. It's got to be consistent pressure up the middle to make him really, really uncomfortable. And yeah, then you're going to win the game.
Yeah, I mean the other part, we're going to get to all of our super chats here in a second. I want to thank everybody for being here. We got Gary Cobb in hour number 2. We'll see what G Cobb has to say about this game, all the Eagles, everything that's been talked about in Eagle Land. But John, we mentioned obviously the injuries at the start of the segment here, the start of the show with Terrion Arnold and Kirby Joseph. But is DJ Reed going to play? Because they opened up his practice window this week. Now I think he was limited at practice, so maybe has a better chance to play. But if they're missing him, Arnold and Joseph, I mean, who are their corners going to be? Amik Robertson and Rock Ya-Sin?
Well, Amik Robertson, that guy's played well at times. But yeah, I mean, he's played a ton of snaps. He's played over 400 snaps. They have that
pretty small dude, but
yeah, he's better suited in the slot, but he's played outside. He played a lot late last season when they were playing well, amazingly, before falling apart. Eventually it catches up to you. But the one good thing about all their injuries is they have these guys who, I mean, that Mullet hasn't played a ton, but one of the games I remember watching, and I'm like, who's this guy? He's making plays. He
would be their slot, right?
I don't know how they're going to work it, but obviously you want Reed out there, you want Arnold out there, and they're good players. So, I mean, but the silver lining of being forced to play some of these guys is some of them show up and play and make plays and do some things. But yeah, I mean, you don't want to do it. And they certainly would rather have the commodities. But I got to tell you, I mean, like Amik Robertson, to use him as an example, versus Terry and Arnold, because you're like, well, you need Terry and Arnold. Terry and Arnold stunk on ice since he's gotten in the NFL. He's been terrible.
Yeah,
He's
no,
been
he hasn't been
terrible.
great. He has not
There was
been
that
great.
debate, and the Eagles were having that debate, believe me, Mitchell or Arnold. Most people put Arnold
Yeah,
because of Alabama. I mean, let's
exactly.
be honest.
Yep.
Most people put him ahead of Quinion, who ironically could have went to Alabama but stuck with Toledo. And the Eagles made the right decision, man. That guy's been bad. Not like disappointing. He's been bad. And I don't think they're any worse playing Amik Robertson than Terry and Arnold.
Wow.
In fact, I think they're better.
No doubt. All right, good stuff there, John. We got a bunch of super chats we're going to get to. I want to thank everybody. Hit that like button on the show. Eagles Lions. Guys, we've been waiting for this game. It feels like forever. It feels like freaking forever. We haven't played the team since 2022 when we beat them. And then I think in 21, John, we beat the ever-living hell out of them. That was the first game, I believe, if I remember correctly. That was the very first game that Shane Steichen had called plays for the Eagles. They were 2-5, and the Lions were 0-7. I think they beat them like 44-6.
No, the first game. That was the first game of the shift to the run, and they scaled back because Jalen was struggling. Or it might have been Vegas. I forget who they played first. It was Vegas or in the Lions. Those were the games where they got some. I think because they lost in Vegas, but
so I think the Lions maybe came the week after. I know we beat the crap out of them in 21.
Yeah, they beat the crap. They really started running the ball well against Las Vegas, but they got beat pretty handily. And they said, "Yeah, we got to do this," and they really amped it up. Now Detroit stunk at the time as well, but they really amped it up. And that was when people were saying, think Sirianni's got to be one and done, this and that. But he called the plays in that game. The first game with Shane was the Chargers, ironically, because he had a big history with the Chargers. And they actually lost that game. But that was the first game he called plays.
Yeah, well, they beat the crap out of him in 21, 44-6, and they also beat him in 22. I think that game was closer. Yeah, 38-35.
Yeah, that was week one. I remember Jody and I said, yeah, this team, man, you don't want to play in week one because nobody knew the Lions were going to be good still at that time. And that is a tough place to play, man. That place is loud.
Yeah,
that place is
loud. That's a dope stadium, Ford Field. I like that place. I've never been there, but from the visuals that I see, I like it.